One night, a friend who was an ad salesman for the local NBC affiliate came over for dinner. He said, "You really ought to consider television news." Now, this was at a time, this was 1974. There weren't very many women on television, not on local, not on network. There was Barbara Walters. I mean, there was not much. And so you couldn't say, "Oh, yeah, I should do that." I mean, I could have so let that passing comment go.
Yeah.
But the next morning, I picked up the phone and I made a cold call to the news director at that station. And I managed to get an interview. And I asked him a ton of questions. At which point he said, "Well, clearly you know how to write an interview." And he took me into the studio and he auditioned me. I was so nervous when I started. I remember the anchor man. His name was Bob Whitten. May he rest in peace. He turned around to me one day and he said, "You're like a little one of those little wind-up dolls that little girls get, and you wind them up and they say, 'Hi, my name is Barbie,' or whatever. You're like one of those little dolls," he said, "because you get so nervous that you constrict your vocal cords. That's what happens when you get nervous. And what it does is you talk faster and faster and the octave goes up." He said, "Every time you're getting ready to go on air, I want you to do this. I want you to just take a breath and think low and slow, low and slow." And I've never forgotten those words. When I got diagnosed with cancer, I'm not going to tell you that at the beginning, it was like, it's hard to even call a friend and say, "I got to tell you something, I have cancer." I knew I'd been this like health advocate. Like, you can go out, learn everything that you possibly can about this disease and educate other women, like grab a hold of the baton and run it the rest of the way to the finish line. And all of a sudden, I went from being a victim patient to being an advocate, which is a person of strength that's going to help others. But at the minute I got that done, Adam, the minute I got in front of it and it became my story to tell, it just changed the entire cancer battle, in the most positive way. For anybody leaving a company, I know it might feel like you want to get that last word, you want to get the last licks, you want to tell them why you really think that they stink. But the thing to do is to go in and say, "I think you guys are great. I've learned so much here. I'm so happy. It was such a valuable time to me. And I wish you guys great success. It just so happens at this point in my life, I've had this other opportunity." Leave letting them think that they're heroes. Because why? Because the only thing you care about or should care about really is the long game. Where do you want to be in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years? If you burn a bridge, they're not going to talk nice about you. And in the case of me, how did I want other networks or shows or brands how did I want them to think of me? I can remember a number of times, I was the host of Good Morning America, but Mary Tyler Moore just walked into the studio. I watched her all the time growing up, and I was like so nervous to go down there and interview. And she was like standing, and I walked down to the other side, the other end of the set, and she came up to me and said, "I'm so nervous. I watch you guys every morning." I was like, "What?" It's always important to remember that they get up and brush their teeth in the morning and put on their left shoe and their right shoe, just like we do. And they have their own idiosyncrasies and their own self-doubts. And some of the biggest stars would come on and really be nervous as hell. I mean, Steve Martin used to be so nervous, and we expected him to be funny, and he wasn't always that funny when he wasn't like on stage, and almost resented you expecting him to be funny. I remember Michael Bolton, the first time he came on, oh my God, he was so nervous. They called me from the control room and said, "Go to the green room and try to make this guy Michael Bolton." This is before Time, Love, and Tenderness.
Wow.
Okay. And before that, he was somewhat unknown.
Yeah.
And he was so nervous. And so I went out and really was kind of hand holding with him and got him and told him what I was going to talk to him about, kind of walked him through it. And, you can make somebody comfortable just with your eyes and your body language. And to me, that was a huge part of being able to host a morning show where people maybe haven't eaten breakfast. They had an extra cup of coffee that they don't usually have. They're nervous. They're under the bright lights. Celine Dion, I did the same thing with her. And she was so nervous. And they said, go in the green room, calm her down. These people who are very big stars, like when they're in the beginning, they're also nervous. I was sitting in Eyewitness News, phone rings. It's my agent. We just got the offer for you to be co-host of Good Morning America. Awesome. I'll call you after the show. Like 20 minutes later, phone rings in my little cubicle. It's my gynecologist. I'm so thrilled to tell you that you're pregnant with your first baby. Dilemma. What am I going to do? Are they still going to want me? There's nothing they could have done. The year before, a law had been passed that said you can't release somebody because of pregnancy. Right. It happened in 1979, and this was 1980. So it was wow. Right after that. So, I went to them and said, I'm going to give you 150%, but I'm also going to be a new mom. And I'm also going to be breastfeeding, which, by the way, you could not say breastfeeding on television at that time. You couldn't say the word breast. The McMahons are so incredible. They, picked me up by helicopter and Kathy Lee, I think, was there that night too. We flew in. I mean, I took my kids along because The Rock just said hi to Mom. How did he know your name? I said, I've interviewed him a lot, all of the big stars there, they were just blown away that I was being featured there, and everyone was wonderful. In fact, here, can you just bring me, it's very heavy. And this is the WW Warrior Award that I got.
That's incredible.
Yeah, just a few little things behind me, but that's the one that my kids think is cool.
I agree with that. Rightfully so.
If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. And to stay updated on everything that the Action Catalyst is up to, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst Podcast and on Twitter at Catalyst_Action. And thanks for listening.